designers. So if you know Zara or maybe Picolinos, is a Spanish, a couple of Spanish designers, you will know them that they're in the States than to her. And she also has amazing philanthropic and humanitarian work building libraries in Africa. And she's originally from Spain. That's why even we have a stronger connection, right? And we
Yes.
years ago. So I know that you call yourself a cultural hybrid because you have your African background and European, and you are now in the States. So there's so many places that you've touched, with your talents. You've been awarded for some of your philanthropic work as well, and featuring magazines like Forbes. And I just want to mention one last thing, because I love when I saw that last year that you were also one of the best dressed people by Vanity Fair. What an honor, right? So welcome, Priscilla Bococo. Would you like to share to the audience about yourself, a little bit more about what I just
Well,
did?
thank you so much. I think the most important thing here is that we are very good friends, and I was very happy to also, have you like my trainer. You help me to be in shape. You give me guidance to eat better, to live better. So I think that we share so many things, and I'm so excited about to be here today and have this amazing chat and allow people to also connect with that magnetism that we all could do to magnetize our dreams, which is, I think, what we always do here. Yeah. And we did it together many times.
Yes, thank you for that. It's always been a pleasure to work with you in different ways and continue to do that. So I know that one of the things that we were wanting to talk about here, about telling your story and your story of success. You're one of the people in this world that I've admired the most, because anything that you've wanted to do, you've done it. And we'll talk about some particular things, in a minute. But about reaching goals, to women entrepreneurs, what is your advice? What is your secret, actually, if you can share it? Because I know that you are busy with your family, you have kids, and you have a big family as well that you take care of, and many people in your world. But at the same time, you are able to do anything that you want in your mind. So what is your secret, Priscilla? Can you tell us a little bit?
I think there is no secret. I think I shift my mindset from victimism to really being the creator of my life. I grew up in Spain, as you know, being the only Black kid in the class. And everybody always told me how difficult it's going to be for me. I'm a Black woman in an Spanish world. And I think because I always have to jump fences, I was thinking, oh, it's so difficult for me. So the moment that I shift my mindset, and I have to say, there was a book that really changed my life. It's this book by Wayne Dyer, Real Magic.
Mm.
And it was when I realized that you can create your own reality if you shift your thinking and you just change your thoughts and you change your reality. So I think my secret is really believe in myself. I think that this is really faith. I'm a person of faith. And when I said something, I just don't care about the time that it's going to take me. A lot of the things that we're discussing today started 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And I just don't lower my enthusiasm. I'm really committed to the goal. And I'm thinking, well, when I'm here in this particular world, I still have time. And a lot of people give up immediately when things don't go right. And I had to take so many turns, different directions. And the healing journey is that one that you find obstacle after obstacle. You jump the obstacles and you keep going. But you have to have this feeling of in enjoying what you do. And I think this is really the secret is that no matter what's happening, I keep the joy going.
Yeah, and that's so true about you, because every time I see you, you have a smile in your face, regardless of what is happening, and the calmness of really being there, present to what each situation. So that's great advice. One of the biggest goals that I know that you've done in the recent past, right, last year, is your book that I have right
Yes.
here. It's in Spanish, but I know it will be translated to English for
It
every.
is in English now, so you can order it in English now.
Look at that. I didn't know that. Perfect. So even better. So this is our title for today, which is We All Have a Story to Tell. I've read your book. I love the stories. I love the message. It's such a beautiful and easy read as well, but with so many lessons of your experience, right? And what you have gone through life to get to where you are nowadays doing the work in the world. So tell us a little bit about your book. I think it's an inspiring testimony, to help everybody discover the story of their lives as you will sell with it. And you also are a big defender that we all have a story, right? So I know that you're working already on your second book as well. So can you tell us a little bit about the journey of writing your book and what you want the listeners and also the people that read your book to get from it?
I wanted to write a book since I was 8 years old. I always wanted to write. And I think the imposter syndrome was present in my life for a long time. And when I started to work like a speaker back in 2014, all the bureaus, speakers bureaus, always asked me about my book. And I said, I have no book. And they said, yeah, but every speaker has a book. And I said, yeah, but not me. And they wanted to force me to do it. But I think that I was not ready. I was just not ready. I didn't want to have a ghostwriter. I wanted to write from my own words. And the moment I really start to believe in myself, thanks to a friend, thanks to someone who is my editor, who she really saw in me when I didn't see me at the beginning. And this push, that's what I always thinking, that you have to have a sacred circle. You being part of my sacred circle and people who push you. And I have to mention your idea to have a mastermind, because I think the mastermind that we have has been essential for my growth. And when we discussed the idea of making the book, I think because I have a group of people who, I mean, the accountability system that we created and that support system has helped me to really achieve it. But I think that when I was writing, I realized that everyone really has a story to tell, but not because of the stories that live within ourselves and the stories that we tell to ourselves, that sometimes they're not really empowering stories. The story that we really have is the story that we want to create. And then is when I realized that my story was already written, because I've been journaling since I was 12 years old. And one part of my journal is always writing about how I would like my life to be, how my ideal life will be. And when I feel frustrated, I go back to that writing and I realize that I have evolved. So why I'm focusing my attention in what I haven't achieved yet when I had so much already, and that change of mindset really helped me. And I realized that sometimes we believe that our stories are irrelevant, but they're not. My story is your story. My story is the story of many people. I have seen men 89 years old telling me that they felt connected to my story. And I love it. Also teenagers and children. So I realized that our stories are universal and we learn from the stories. The human being always has been connected to his stories. And right now, we don't dive into our own stories, not really to be sad about what we went through. It's mostly use your story like a jump to where you want to be and rewrite it. We have all that power.
I love your take on that, actually. So it's not about the ones that we are telling, but it's about the ones that we are creating and that we have the power to do. And that's actually a beautiful way to put it, and how the connection with all of us, right? And that's a beautifully said, that anybody of any age is not just about somebody that is in your background or it is in your position at the moment, right? It's more about anybody in this world. We have that connection of the stories that we all share, and how to tell that, for each of us, and how to build that in flow. I love that you share about how the connection with others also is so important, right? Because we need that people in order to actually achieve the things that we want in life once we believe in them. So I love that the book is now in English, and that's something that I want to again repeat, because I recommended that everybody gets this book and give it some reading and some time to actually assimilate some of the things that Priscilla is sharing, because they are beautiful teachings. So the second book, do you want to just say something?
Yes, this is a different adventure because it's a novel, and I mean, thanks to this book, we all have a story to tell. I reconnected with my teacher since I was 12 years old. This teacher inspired to write, and I used to write fiction. So when I met her in one of my book launchings in Madrid, one of the first ones, she mentioned to me, you know what, I like your book, but I think your thing is fiction. I remember the 12 years old you writing fiction. So I challenge you to do that. And I said, you know what? I have nothing to lose. Let me just have fun. And I'm having a lot of fun. I'm really in a pace, a snail pace, not as fast as I wanted to, but I also taking the time to really enjoy the journey, because so many times we only looking about the end goal. And we started this conversation thinking about our goals. And as women, we put ourselves so many goals. We have family goals. We have, of course, self-image goals. We have professional goals. And we forget the most important part, which is enjoying the journey. And there is a poem that I love that is called Ithaca from Cavafis. It's a Greek poet. And he said, you know, so many times we arrive to our destinations and we feel frustrated or empty. And the reason why is because we really didn't enjoy the journey. If you enjoy the whole journey, when you get there, it's only one step more of the way. But if you're always looking for that moment when you get there, you're not going to have the degree of satisfaction that particular arriving to that goal could give you. So that's one of the things that I also changed, because I was always a goal-oriented person. And right now I'm more in enjoying every part of the journey.
That's so important, the fun, right? As when we are going through the process and the flow. And I love that you said the snail space. You know, I'm the super slow woman, so going slowly is good, right? Slowly wins the race, right? At times, and being in that flow. And I love what you shared about your book before also, because you were pushed, right, to want to do something that was not really coming out for you until it actually did. And then that's why the beautiful book that came out from you at that moment when you really felt that it was the time to do it for you. So I want to change a little bit here, because some of the other things that we want to share with our audience is about how to learn from failure and what to do with fears. I mean, that's so key. So can you talk about that, your experience in cultural diplomacy as an international speaker? What are your lessons that you think are most important for our audience?
I mean, I think one of my biggest fears was to become an entrepreneur. And I think behind the fear is always opportunity. But are we able to really look at the fear in the eye? Because most of the time we're trying to avoid to feel the fear. But the fear is actually serving us. It's not against us, it's serving us. And I think the moment that I realized that all the fears that I had, and sometimes they have costumes like perfectionism, like the imposter syndrome, you see the fear to failure. What is behind that fear? It is the fear not to be loved. And once I realized that what we're all looking for is to be loved, and I connected with my own self-esteem and loving myself, I was able to accomplish many things, because one of my biggest fear was, why people don't read my book? Why people don't like it? And the moment that I said, if I like it, it's enough. The moment that we present ourselves in public, why people don't listen to me? If I'm sure, then I was able to overcome my fear to speak, because since I was a kid, I developed a panic through being in audiences and express myself. And who will tell me one day that I will be living for giving speeches to people and speaking my voice? So sometimes we need to find what is behind that fear. Could be traumas that you have from before, but at the end, I think the summary is that we all want to be loved, we all want to be heard, and we all want to be seen. And once we see that, can you see yourself? Can you buy yourself? I mean, we want to sell ourselves to the world, but are you able to buy yourself? You will buy yourself. If you're not, why do you expect other people to really get you and understand you and connect with you? So I think this is the big change, that how I overcome some of my fears. It was the more deeper connection you have with yourselves, you realize that fear is an illusion, and you become a friend of the fear. And failure is another thing. Failure is just a part of your learning process. I remember when I was fired from the Spain US Chamber of Commerce. I was 7 years in the work, and I was known to be the magician that could take companies from local to global. And one day, Friday, 3 p.m., they fire me. You know, in the United States, they fire you on Fridays, 3 p.m. It's a great time, so you have a beautiful weekend. And at that time, I was so shocked. And I said, oh my God, 16 hours a day, so many days working, and why me? And then when I decided, instead of asking myself, why me? what for? What is the thing that I have to take from here? So from that failure, that for me at that moment, I saw it like a failure because I mean, how you are an executive, top executive, and the next day you have no job. How do you feel? And then I realized that the reason why this happened is because it was an entrepreneur within me that it was always very scared to come out. That's the reason why I wanted to do what I wanted in my job. And I didn't really listen to the leadership above me because I was like, oh, I want to do things my way. And what happens is that when you are really, rebel against a system, it means that it's an entrepreneur there and you are disruptive. And I think entrepreneurship is a path of self-discovery and also self-knowledge. So that's the reason why, for me, failure right now, it really doesn't exist. And I don't mind to make one mistake after another because I realize that what I do with this, instead of asking myself why me, is what do I do with this? What is my lesson here? And I think it's beautiful when you are able to really understand this like a learning process because this is only a school of life, nothing else than that.
Yeah. Two things you said there that are just so empowering. It's like, will you buy yourself, right? When we are thinking about the not being liked, and when we are entrepreneurs and we're the not being liked, the not being loved is such a big fear. And like, will you buy yourself? Love that. Something to really think about, right? And thank you for sharing, one of the failures. I remember when we met, you were the executive director of the Spanish US Chamber of Commerce. And unfair to be fired from that position because you were doing an amazing job and you're turning it into a gift of, I needed to be the entrepreneur, I'm not a disruptor. This is what I'm doing now with the work in my life. And you've expanded in a way that is, really who you are and really what you've made of your life, much larger than what you were doing at that point even, right? So as you know, I'm also finishing my book and my tagline is turning obstacles into gifts, because I believe like you, everything that happens to us, even it happens to us, happen for us, right? I know somebody else says that, but I borrow it because it's so true. It is a gift.
It is
right?
not true.
That is the reality. So talking about this, and I'm super excited to announce that we will be going together to that retreat in Kenya that a Spanish nonprofit is organizing in September this year, which is super exciting, and to be with you for this project. But I know that you've been working with philanthropic humanitarian work in Africa for many years now. You've been building libraries in 4 different countries. There's one more coming up, Senegal soon, right? Can you talk a little bit about your experience here? I just have this concept of Hakuna Matata, right? Like
yes.
About whatever happens in your life, you always stay happy because you don't know. This might be something really good for you, right? And it will be. So what has been your experience? Can you talk about this work? Because I think it's so important as part of what you do.
I think my work in Africa starts when I turned 35 years old, because I was a decaf African. I mean, my family is from Africa. I was born in Spain. I'm living 24 years here, but I never have put a foot in Africa before. I know Africa intellectually because since I was a little kid, my parents make a huge effort that I learned things about Africa, but the only way they have to, it was through books. So books were my nannies, my guidances, my psychologists. In Africa, you don't go to a psychologist, you have problems. So I have to really rely on books to find answers. And when I turned 35 and I went to the continent, I realized that I was these kids that I was looking at, and some of them, they never really touch a book with their hands. So for me, that was shocking because books were something so natural in my life that when a kid asks me, can I touch it? Because I don't know what is the feeling. I said, you know what? With a book, you're never alone. That is actually our motto. And this is the reason why we create this project. But for me, it was, I don't want to wait until I have the money to help. A lot of people believe that to be humanitarian, you need to be really wealthy. And from my perspective, you could do anything. I started this project just helping kids to go to school. Instead of buying shoes, I decided, okay, I allocate that money to just go and help someone to go to school. Helping one person means that you help the whole family, because this kid is going to get a better job, and is going to be able to help his family. And also I realized that so many ideas come from books, and books has been a healing um, master for me. It has been for many other people. New ideas come. I have the story of Paul, for example. He wanted to be a pilot, and he read these books that I used to send in the savannah. You're gonna meet Paul when you go in. Is William's son, and immediately after reading this book, since he was 9, 10 years old, he became a pilot 2 years ago. He got his license. And I think this is exactly the power of books. And I started this project with friends, with people who helped me to just bring in books together to Africa, because of course the shipping is extremely expensive. But we end up having a library in Zimbabwe, one in Kenya, one in Ghana, one in Uganda. We collaborate with different countries in Nigeria, in Cameroon, in Rwanda. So that has been an amazing, amazing journey. And when kids come and say, please, can you send us more books? We love traveling books because we can travel with our mind. I realized that I traveled to Africa so many times when I was a kid. And if I provide books to people, they could travel through the world also through these books. And I think that it's just amazing. And I'm so glad that you're going to be able to visit our library in Kenya and making this project, because this project is actually a project to really enhance the women's lives, because these women live in an environment that is very challenging for them, and not all of them want to get education. But why, if we teach them to get a profession, why somebody could be a chef, or could be a hairdresser, or just do nails, be a nail artist, something like that. So this is the reason why we go to Kenya, and all the proceeds of the trip going for this project, that is to create a professional center for Maasai women.
Yeah, amazing. And, I love everything that you're sharing, and so blessed to be going there. And, anybody that wants to learn more about this can contact either Priscilla or myself to be part of this project and participate. Because again, I also don't believe you don't have to be wealthy in order to be doing this humanitarian philanthropic work and get an amazing trip. We're out of time, which is just like crazy, because I could talk to you about so many things and I love our conversation. But with this last minute that we have, I would love for you to share how people can contact you, how people can find you. If there's somebody that wants you to speak at their group, if there's somebody that wants to work with you, an emerging entrepreneur, how can they contact you? What is the best way they can reach you?
Well, you have here the website, and you can just write me to the website. I also respond to all my social media. That is the same one, Priscilla Bokoko. I'm a mentor for emerging entrepreneurs, people who are really stuck or kind of with blockages to make that jump in the entrepreneurship arena. I'm there for you. Also, if you want to have a speaker who speak about humanistic leadership or diversity, also you can check my website or contact any of my agents. And please travel with us to Africa. That would be awesome.
That would be amazing. September 13th to the 21st. I'm just saying. So, Priscilla, what a pleasure to be with you as always. And just thank you so much for joining us here, for sharing your wisdom with our audience. I think we're really taking some really good nuggets from what you're talking today, and big breakthroughs maybe for some of them. So I'd like to say thanks again to you for being here. And thank you everybody for watching, and everybody that is watching the recording after and live. And we'll see you again very soon on our next show. Bye now. Have a wonderful day.